Welcome back to See the Stories, the signature segment of the 3-Hour News Show. Now, what is your favorite sport? You're our resident sports guy.
I want to say tennis and golf. I can't really, just pick one, but between those two, they seem to be the favorite at the moment.
Oh yeah, because you were a former tennis athlete.
Yes.
Yeah.
You?
Me?
Yes. What about you?
My favorite will always be rugby for life.
There you go.
And I do equestrian and rugby, right? That's right. But there's also a game that I used to like since I was really little because my dad loves to play bowling.
Oh, right. I remember back in the early 2000s where it was a craze, right? And then, but
90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, again, it's very, very interesting to play.
Yeah, and I think people are still loving it. I think it's a classic sport, classic game, and there are apparently a lot of clubs in Jakarta too. Did you know that?
No.
So we're going to find out more about this, and we have in the studio with us today Patrick Hernandez and Anthony Tua from Cihuuy Bowling
hey guys,
here
welcome
in Jakarta.
Thank you for having us.
Wow, this is exciting. So I know that we're here to talk about bowling, but I want to know how many clubs are there in Jakarta? Because this is, bowling is not just something that people do for fun, but they're actually athletes and pathways to, national teams and international competitions, right?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of clubs in Jakarta itself, I think it's more than a dozen as well. So it's quite a lot. So yeah, there's a lot of clubs and then all sorts of ages and then genders and everything. So it's pretty much a lot.
How's the federation that's taking care of you guys, the bowlers? Is that the right term though for you guys?
Yeah, we do. In terms of federation, it's called the Persatuan Bowling Indonesia.
Okay.
There's also states as well. So there's PBI Jakarta, there's PBI Sumatera Utara. Right. So their job is basically to take care of us as athletes and also as bowlers who are trying to develop and improve for the future of bowling.
So is bowling going to be part of PON later this year?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Are you
I like that.
going to participate?
Not me, actually, but Patrick
he is.
would be, yes.
No, unfortunately, no. At the same time, it's not stopping us from, continue bowling and practicing and competing outside, not just in Indonesia, but also outside the country.
Oh.
Okay.
All right.
You got more?
No, I'm throwing it to you, man.
So bowling, can you guys explain to us a little bit, maybe if you can, if you tell us a little bit of the background here, maybe Indonesia bowling to be just specifically Indonesia, or maybe just in the historical of bowling itself in general.
So basically bowling has been in Indonesia for a long time. As you mentioned earlier, it was from 1900s, 1990s, and then until the early 2000s. There are a lot of bowling centers in Jakarta as well. But right now, the only bowling center that is, you could say, compatible for international tournaments and stuff like that is actually in Ancol. So it's Jaya Ancol Bowling, and it's also now there's also great bowling lanes or bowling alleys in Palembang, and then now because PON is going to be held in Sumatera Utara, there's also a new bowling alley in Medan as well.
Because they have to, right? Because they're hosting.
Because they're the hosts.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
Very much.
So what are the basic rules of bowling? I know that people think they know the rules, but we know how to play it. But what are actually the rules of bowling?
I mean, there aren't any, hard and fast rules. It's just don't cross the foul line when you throw the ball, and don't destroy the bowling alley or the lane.
So what happens when you cross the foul line, though?
No, it's just, I mean, if you're casually bowling, then it's absolutely fine.
Well, but in competition?
In competitions, then it's a foul, and your score for that particular attempt would be 0.
0 right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's the same like when we're playing, right? You go straight away.
Exactly. So basically, the point of bowling is trying to get as much pins as possible, try to knock down as much pins as possible.
So how many kinds of bowling is there? Like, when you play pool, there's like 8 ball, there's
There
like
you go.
9 ball, so
Yeah.
are there different?
Yeah, there are several. It's a good question, actually, because, I mean, of course, 10-pin bowling is the most popular, but there are more, niche bowling games, whether you have cricket bowls or you have, 9 pins or duck pins, but those aren't exactly very popular unless you live in a particular part of the world. But in Asia, mostly it's 10-pin bowling.
Oh, and internationally competed is also
It's
tenpin.
also
Yes.
tenpin bowling.
So that's the only one category when you, let's say, going to pond later on during the year.
Yeah,
That's the
it
only.
is. I mean, here in Indonesia, it's
Absolutely.
also only 10-pin bowling, so
10-pin
there's no. I mean, unless you go to time zone or something like that, which is
All
small.
right, especially now, yeah.
Yeah, they have it everywhere now.
Exactly.
Easily, very easy to find. Now we see there's some pins there. We see some balls. We see a pair of shoes. Can you tell us, because I know when I go to man, it's been a while.
Yeah, me
since
too.
I've been to the
Me too.
bowling
I think
alley.
last time I went for bowling was in college.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Like I said, sometime in the 2000s. So anyway, there's different kinds of balls.
We're still in the 2000s.
We're still- My
It hasn't
goodness.
been a
Let's
1,000
move
years
on.
yet.
Why don't we, right? So what's the difference with the weight and then the grip size? There's different sizes. There's different weights. Can you explain or just elaborate a little
Yeah.
bit on that too?
So basically, bowling balls is basically. I mean, you can see there's a lot of types of bowling balls. There's a ball that hooks more. There's a ball that goes really straight. So it depends on what we need during competitions or any time where we're bowling. And then in terms of like the sizes of our hands, and it has to be measured as well because it has to be more comfortable with your hand. So that's why I have a different span of my hands, and also with Anthony, everyone has different spans or length of their hands.
Absolutely.
So in competition, how many bowling balls are you allowed per person?
So let's say if we go for Asian Games or SEA Games, Bond, you're only allowed to have 6. So you can bring as much balls as possible, and then later on during the day of the competition, you're only allowed to have 6 balls. Six bowling
6.
balls only.
So you know which balls are for which kind of spins and whatever. You
Exactly.
use, right?
So during practice, obviously we try to manage which bowling ball suits best with this particular lane, because in the lanes itself there's oil in the lane that keeps the ball glide and all.
Right.
So that's where we try to practice and try to figure out which bowling ball is suitable for each particular lane.
Learning something new
Yeah,
every
this is
day.
cool.
I didn't even know that it was oiled.
No idea.
It was just wood, right?
It
In a
looks like
blink of
just
an eye.
parquet. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
like
in
this?
naked eye.
So you have you then make a decision on the 6 balls when you're warming up, when you're practicing during, let's say, the beginning of the day before the competition starts. Is
Not
that-
just the during competitions. Basically, we practice, let's say, 1 month or 2 months before the competition. That's where we try to figure out which bowling ball is
I see.
suitable, which one's
Okay.
really nice.
Because from the foul line to the pins, it's 60 feet.
Okay.
And the oiling, or the length, would range between 39 to 45, and it would have different types of volume and so forth. So that's why choosing the right equipment is extremely important. Yeah.
Cool. So can you tell us, since now we see 4 bowling balls here, can you tell us if there's any difference in between these 4?
Right, sure. So, okay, the green ball that you see up here, that's, you see the surface is really dull, so it's more of an aggressive ball, which means it would curve, or in bowling terms, hook, because it does
Oh, this would curve more.
curve a lot more.
Okay.
And this one over here, it's a plastic ball, so that means it's shiny, so it would just go straight.
Oh, so that's how you know the
That's
difference.
Exactly. Your strike ball and your spare ball.
Yes,
All
that's
right.
why there's a strike ball, spare ball. So when we throw, and then the pins still stay up, and then it's
Yeah,
considered a spare,
spare,
right? You
right,
need to
yeah.
spare it, and the only way for us to spare it is using a spare ball because it goes really straight.
Right.
So spare is the one that goes really straight, and the strike ball is the one that hooks.
Yes, exactly.
Ah, no wonder. But some people do these really, really cool spins with their ball.
Right.
Is that a part of a technique? What kind of sort of techniques of okay? Are we going to do this after the break? No, I'm just really curious because me growing up, I've seen a lot of different people play, and some so ambitious with their different styles of playing. But so, what are the basic techniques of bowling? Because you'd only think that you just throw the ball.
Right, just throw the ball.
Right.
But
So basically, the reason why we're hooking the balls
Yeah.
is that the probability of getting a strike is higher rather than going straight.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's basically the idea of why people are hooking the ball.
pro tip from you: how do you manage a split? A split is basically
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a far apart
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
situation. It's basically, it's,
Do you have to decide on which one because you have to sacrifice one in the end, or is there a
It's-
chance you can do both?
I mean, it's mostly about angles. So if you have a 7-10 split, I mean, the two most furthest, pins
Yeah.
off, then that would be quite impossible. But if you see that it's actually doable with the angle, so it's a bit like playing pool, where you hit
Yeah.
the ball, hit the pins, I would say rather, and then it deflects and it hits, the other pin on the other side.
So you gotta hit the pin in such a way that it
Yes.
goes that way,
Precisely.
so it'll
Yeah.
hit the
Precisely.
but during splits as well, our mindset is more on hit as many pins as possible. So if it doesn't spare, it's all right. I mean, we did try our best to.
But
try
at
to make
least you
spare.
got it all done.
Exactly.
As much as we can.
Yeah.
Right.
So
the
for
goal is not to move
the-
forward this
no.
time, but to as many
Pins as
you
possible.
gotta,
possible.
right.
Right.
So now let's talk about the shoes a little bit because in my mind, bowling shoes they don't look like that.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, they
apparently.
don't, right? So can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about shoes or the kind, many different kinds that you guys
It
probably
is pretty
have?
interesting. It's not our daily go-to shoes.
Yeah.
So you can see from this side.
Look at that.
So this is real. This is the soles
Right.
are really different, right? Because we're right-handed, so we need to slide with our left foot. So that's why this one is leather, and then the rest of it is rubber. It's for us to have a break, you could say.
Okay.
So we don't slip off while we slide or while we try to throw the ball.
That's professional.
Oh, that is exactly
That's
right.
athletic gear.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Because if you go to a bowling alley, you would just get like the same.
Yes. Uniform.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it is. And then, yeah, basically, nowadays, us bowlers, we like to, like fashion as well, like to see which ones
So the
looks
design,
nice and
yes.
then design and all. But yeah, so that's basically it. I mean, this is leather, and then you can change it as well, depending on the wood.
Oh, so there's Velcro there?
Yeah, there's also Velcro here, and Velcro everywhere, basically.
Wow.
So again, it's situational in terms of like changing the leather part. It's
Mm-hmm.
very situational because every lanes is not the same. There are times that we had an experience in Malaysia that the lanes were really tacky.
Sticky.
Yeah, it was really sticky. So we had to change the leather that's really smooth, you could say, or slippery, so we can slide.
Oh.
Because sliding is.
It's an essential part.
Could you show the sole to the camera? I think the camera
Yeah,
couldn't catch
right
the
there.
camera.
Zoom it.
Yeah, so they have to be able to see the differences. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were like, this is for right-handed, right?
Yeah.
So if you were left-handed, you could just
Speed the other
Velcro
way
and
around.
Yeah,
change
it's
it
just
out.
the other way around.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to know both of your stories. When did you guys get into bowling? And generally, how young does one start with bowling here in Indonesia?
Well, I started when I would like to say 12 or 13. That was in Singapore when I was just living there. And then I bowled for a few years, and then I stopped, and then I started again. So, yeah.
For me, this is interesting. I started when I was 5.
Yes, that's a
I'm
different
now
story.
23, so I've been bowling for about 19 years. But I had a break as well because I had to go for university, stopped for a while, but then came back again. And yeah, I think it's just something that we can't like forget. Once you like bowling, you just enjoy and have a passion for it.
There's no minimum age to start. I mean, you
Yeah,
started when he was
there's no
5.
age.
You just got to be really careful that your
Yeah.
bowling ball doesn't match.
Challenge
Exactly.
probably the weight of the ball.
But I want to know because athletes, like competing athletes, right? They have to stay fit for whatever game they're playing. Is there a specific fitness routine for
I wanna know this
bowlers?
too,
because
yes.
even golfers have their own specific
Definitely,
routine,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, what about bowlers?
I mean, personally, so I've been also training with the national team and also the Jakarta team. We do have our routine of physical training, and mostly it's more about core, stability, agility, flexibility as well. So it's not much. It's not. I mean, probably people would think, oh, bowling is heavy, so you need to weight lift, but it's actually the opposite. So we don't actually do weight lift because, again, bowling is all about muscle memory, and then when you do weight lift, it's just muscle memory again, and it's gonna ruin everything. So basically, core, stability, agility, basically that.
So the movement is what's important,
Movement
right?
Yes,
is important.
the movement.
You need to be flexible. I
Not really,
right?
not really, but flexible is a plus.
It's a plus, okay.
Flexibility is a plus.
Okay.
But you have to be in a certain balance, right?
Exactly. So that's why mobility is really important. Again, core is really important because you have to stay balanced in order for you to really make a really good shot.
What about injuries? Have you ever like experienced any injuries?
Yeah, that's more for me.
Because there's some. I mean, this is like a one-hand thing, right?
Exactly.
Shoulders,
One side
biceps.
only.
Mostly your thumb, really.
Ouch.
So I mean, if you bowl, let's say 8 games, or 15 games of tournaments and stuff, then your thumb would really start to swell. And another would be definitely your knees, because you're sliding, and of course it depends on how the style of bowling.
So how do you strengthen your
It's more the skin, really.
It's basically just the
yeah,
skin.
it's just
Oh,
the-
it's like a
Then you would
It
have
gets
a-
callus.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Calluses. Ah.
You can actually see a bit
Yeah.
of that.
Yes, we can see that.
I got one, but this is
Yeah.
definitely not from
I mean, in terms of injury as well, most common is like basically knees and
Yes.
then forearm, bicep. But basically, if you feel that way, it's because you lack of like stretching, cooling down, because it's really important to stretch before you bowl and also stretch after you bowl.
Yes.
We're going to learn some bowling moves after this, so make sure you
course.
stay tuned with us on See the Stories. Don't go anywhere.